Hello and welcome to my new video, how to draw a mountain step by step. The first step for many drawings is to start off with a line, and mountains are quite sharp and raggedy, so we have a line which is quite sharp. It doesn't really matter where it goes too much. So here we're actually thinking about the quality of the line, the type of line that we're using, and would be quite useful to press with the pencil quite firmly to create a dark line, and then in other places press less firmly, softer, to create a softer line. So you have a variety of shapes and a variety of lines. As with most drawings, you start off with the big shapes first and then you work into detail. I think the mountains to some extent look like maps, so you can sort of almost imagine that you're drawing roads and surfaces on the side of the mountain. So just like on a map, all the lines have a reason why they're there, because they're all mapped out. On the side of a mountain, all the lines that you would see and all the marks that you make have some sense of the geology of the formation of the mountain. And if your lines are nice and specific, they'll give that sense of monumental quality that the mountain has. Once you have drawn what is to you an interesting range of mountains which show some form of strength, I would then suggest that you use a pastel or crayon. In this case I'm going to use soft pastels to create some tone. So I use a black pastel first so I can make the darker areas, so not just lines but actual blocks of tone, and then I can also smudge it with my fingers so that I get a range of tonal marks, not just dark but all the midtones too. With this soft black pastel that I'm using, I can create nice dark lines, and then as I smudge it I achieve a range of different tones. And the paper that I'm using is a mid-tone grey paper. It's not quite pure white, so that means that later on when I use a white pastel and a blue pastel, they'll shine up more because they're on a mid-tone rather than a white tone. Drawing is at its heart quite an intuitive thing to do. It involves a lot of thought but not really thinking with words, so to be able to smudge with your fingers to create an effect is a useful way to just react to your drawing and just draw rather than thinking too much. So you just react to what you see, what you create, rather than concerning yourself if it looks right or looks wrong. Just trust that it will be fine. I start to put some purple and blue pastel in the shadows of the mountains and add a few more lines if I feel there's a gap which needs to be filled. But sometimes in drawing it's nice to have areas where there's nothing much going on. If the colours that I'm using become too strong, I can just add a bit of black pastel on top to dilute them. I want to make the tones in this drawing of the dark areas of the mountain quite interesting, things going on within those areas, rather than just flat areas of tone. So I spend some time on these parts. So about now we get to a stage where the mountains are coming along. So I block in the sky with a blue pastel, and again once that's blocked in I can smudge it to make it a smoother tone, which will mean it will recede and look further away because it hasn't got little bumps and shapes in it. And then once that's a nice blue smooth tone which is far away from the mountains, I can just do a few dabs of white to indicate some movement in the sky and maybe some cloud formations. And then I can use the same white pastel to create the highlights within the mountain. So this is a mountain, like a Himalayan mountain with snow on it. I can create a brighter light source than the grey paper that I'm using. So now I suddenly have the full range of tones and it makes the mountains more dramatic. So the next step in this drawing is to imply some more detail. So a lot of the marks that we've already done are loose, but they're sort of raggedy, like I mentioned at the beginning. But now we can put smaller little marks in, not too much detail because it might look finicky, if that's a word. So once the broad basis of the image is in, then you think about detail, but I would also suggest that you think about the direction and the sort of speed of the marks that you make, because if they're quite confident, speedy marks, they'll look more forceful and therefore be more appropriate to a mountain, rather than if they're small, hesitant little marks, which might not be quite so useful. This sort of drawing, you can just keep going on, and just your sort of judgment when it's finished, and then do another one. I hope you like this drawing, and I hope it's useful for your own drawing, and see you next time. Thank you.